Okay, so we learned if you knit every row in your garment, you're using a pattern called the garter stitch. Okay, so now we're going to learn the purl stitch. And in conjunction with this, we're going to learn what's called the stockinette stitch, because it's kind of hard to teach one without the other. So everything knit is the pattern called the garter stitch. The stockinette stitch is also a pattern, and what it is you knit one row and then flip it and purl one row, and it makes what you see normally how sweaters, the pattern that's in sweaters. I know it sounds confusing since everything's called a stitch, but the stockinette stitch and the garter stitch is actually a pattern stitch. These are all knit. These are all knit stitches. So this next row, we're going to do the purl stitch, and as we proceed, you will see how the stockinette stitch comes together. Purl is very important when it comes to stockinette stitch and what's called ribbing. So, and it's just the backwards knit stitch. Here is the purl stitch. So you remember when we're knitting, we go in from the back to the front? Purl stitch is oppositeville. We're going from the front to the back. And you're not going to be going under that left hand needle. So you literally bring the yarn to the front. So before we were back here, now it's back here. See how that works? And you're going to put the right needle into the front of the stitch and come on top. So your left needle is going to be on the bottom this time. And you're going to yarn over the top needle. You're going to go behind it like that and pull through. It's the backwards knit stitch. Oh, dropped it. And you just slip that off of the end of the needle. See how the yarn is all in the front now? So we're going into the front of the next stitch, left needle on the bottom, right needle on top, yarn over, going behind and around, pull it through, slip it off the end. Okay? Through the front, left needle on the bottom, right needle on top, around, pull it through, slip it off. All right, let's complete this row while we watch. This stitch can feel very awkward because you are doing it backwards. All right, so we're purling all the way to the end. All right, now, there's no difference on the back. You can't tell any difference there because stockinette pattern stitch has a front and a back, and you'll see what I mean. The back is going to look like the garter stitch. So that's why I wanted to keep that on there so you could see. Okay? When we flip it over, uh-oh, something's happening. What's different? Well, that's the result of having done the purl stitch. So now, instead of these little ridges we had, now we have columns of little V's. See? So that is called the stockinette pattern stitch. The front looks like little V's and the back looks like the garter stitch with the little ridges. Okay, so how do we maintain that? So remember what I said, you're going to knit run one row, purl one row. We did our purl row. Now we're going to do a knit row. Okay? Okay, remember with knitting, you're going to go to the back of the stitch. You're going to through the loop and under the left needle. Okay? Yarn is behind everything. Yarn over, pull through, slip that off, keep knitting. Okay? Into the back, yarn over, pull it through, slip it off, maintaining your tension with your working yarn. Through the back, under the left needle, yarn over, pull through. Okay, we're going to continue on. All right. Now you can see that beautiful V pattern has grown. Okay, so what's the next row going to be? You're right, you flip it over and we're going to do a purl row. Okay? Let's do that one more time together. So remember, this one's kind of awkward. Everything's to the front this time. Right needle through the front of the loop. Right needle on top. Whoop. Yarn over. Pull it through, slip it off. I'm going to do that all the way down. So to measure your gauge, your pattern will tell you how to measure it in your pattern stitch that you're using. I don't know that I'm going to do enough on this to show you how to do gauge. I guess I need to. All right, so we completed our purl row. Remember, the purl stitch is actually how the back. Okay, so it looks like, you see that we flip it over, there's some more of those beautiful V's. I love that. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so when you get a big enough swatch to measure gauge, and I know this one isn't, you can lay that, well, maybe. Let me do one more row. So we're going to measure gauge. Do what I say, not what I do. You need to make a 4x4 swatch in order to measure gauge effectively, but I'm going to cheat, so just for time purposes, and we're going to count the stitches of this stockinette stitch. Okay, so in stockinette stitch, the little V-stitch columns is the front of your work, and we're going to line this up with the side of a row and stitches. Remember how we did that? We're counting rows and number of stitches per inch, and this is only broken down per 2 inches. So you're going to count the little V's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. So you have 5x5 gauge.